Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
Let's dive in, because this story has been a weight in my chest for months, a truth I carried like a stone, heavy and unyielding, until I finally let it go and found air again. It wasn't a dramatic betrayal, no lipstick stains on a collar like in some cheap thriller, no hotel receipts slipping from a wallet, no shouting matches that woke the neighbors. It was a keychain, a cheap, silver keychain with a tiny enamel sunflower, left carelessly on the edge of our bathroom sink one Tuesday morning after Nora rushed out for what she called a rehearsal. We'd been married for 7 years, Nora and I, the kind of couple who looked happy in photos, matching smiles at holiday parties, hands intertwined at her community theatre premieres, our laughter captured in snapshots framed on our apartment walls. I was a high school history teacher, spending evenings grading papers on the American Revolution in our cozy apartment filled with dog-eared books, mismatched mugs, and the faint scent of Nora's coffee. She was a part-time barista, an aspiring actress, always chasing the next role, her energy lighting up rooms like a spotlight. We shared our space with a tabby cat, Juniper, who'd curl up on my lap while I read, purring softly as if she knew the weight of my day. Our life felt steady, if not perfect, a rhythm of routines, grocery runs, movie nights, her late rehearsals that I thought anchored us. But lately, our evenings had grown quiet, her laughter reserved for phone calls she took in the bedroom, the door half closed, her voice muffled but bright, a sound that used to be mine. I noticed the keychain because it wasn't hers. Nora loved bold, chunky accessories, big hoop earrings, colorful scarves that matched her vibrant energy, not this delicate sunflower, understated and out of place, like a prop from someone else's story. I picked it up, the metal cool against my fingers, and saw a tiny J etched on the back, precise and deliberate, like a signature meant to be found. My name's Ethan. The J hit like a quiet jolt, a puzzle piece I didn't want to place, a whisper of something wrong that sent a shiver down my spine. I stood in the bathroom, Juniper weaving between my legs, her tail brushing my ankles, and turned the keychain over in my hands, my mind racing with questions I wasn't ready to ask. Was it a prop from her theatre group? A gift from a friend? A mistake left behind after a cast party? I told myself it was nothing, a trivial item from one of her endless rehearsals, maybe dropped by a stagehand during a late-night run-through. But doubt settled in, heavy and persistent, like fog rolling over the hills outside our small town, obscuring the familiar outlines of our life. I left the keychain where it was, planning to ask casually when she got home, to keep my voice light and avoid the accusation I could already hear her deflecting. But the question stuck in my throat when she walked in, her cheeks flushed with a glow I hadn't seen in months, her eyes bright with a spark that felt foreign, like it belonged to a Nora I didn't know. "Long rehearsal," she said, dropping her bag by the door, kicking off her flats, and planting a quick kiss on my cheek, her new lavender perfume lingering, sharp and unfamiliar. Not the vanilla scented bought her for our 5th anniversary. I nodded, forcing a smile, but the J stayed with me, a splinter in my thoughts, pricking every time I tried to move on, every time I tried to convince myself I was overthinking a piece of metal smaller than my thumb. The next day, I couldn't shake it. The keychain, the perfume, her distracted smile, they swirled in my head, a storm of questions I didn't want to face, but couldn't ignore. While Nora was at a cast dinner, I did something he'd never done before. I searched her bag, my hands trembling as guilt twisted my stomach like a knot. The keychain was gone, its absence louder than its presence, but inside a side pocket, I found a folded ticket stub for a jazz club downtown, dated for a night shed claimed to be at the theatre, running lines with her cast. The stub was creased, as if it had been tucked away in haste, and my heart sank, heavy and cold, like a stone dropped into a well, the ripples spreading through me, unsettling everything I thought I knew. Had she lied? Was this a one-off, or something more? I photographed the stub with my phone, my fingers clumsy, and slipped it back, my pulse loud in my ears, drowning out Juniper's curious meow as she nudged my leg, sensing my unease. That evening, over a dinner of pasta Shed thrown together distractedly overcooked, the sauce to salty, she was glued to her phone, texting with a smile she didn't share with me. Her fingers dancing across the screen with a purpose that excluded me. Work stuff, she said. Her voice too bright, too practiced, as she angled the phone away, her eyes avoiding mine. I didn't push, didn't want to hear the lie I knew was coming, but the doubt grew, a shadow stretching across our life, darkening the corners of our once warm apartment. Later, as she slept, her breathing soft and untroubled, her hair spilling across the pillow it used to when we'd stay up talking about her dreams of Broadway, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the J burning in my mind like a brand, a mark I couldn't erase. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed more than a keychain and the ticket stub, more than a gut feeling that was tearing me apart. I needed proof I wasn't losing my mind, that I wasn't the paranoid husband she'd accused me of being if I asked the wrong question. The following days were a descent into quiet obsession, a slow unraveling I couldn't stop, like a thread pulled from a sweater he'd worn too long. I started noticing things I'd overlooked: her rehearsals stretching past midnight, her new wardrobe of flowy dresses she claimed were for auditions, but wore to coffee runs, the way she'd hum jazz tunes I didn't recognize, soft melodies that didn't come from our shared Spotify playlist, the one we'd built on road trips to the coast. One morning, while she was out for a script read-through, I checked her laptop, left open on the kitchen table, its password unchanged, Juniper's name, a detail that now felt like a cruel irony, a reminder of a bond I thought we shared. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keys, guilt warring with a desperate need to know, my heart pounding as if I were crossing a line I couldn't uncross. But I opened her email, scanning quickly, hating myself with every click, feeling like a thief in my own home. There it was, a thread with Julian M., labeled as a lighting designer from her community theatre group, a name she'd mentioned once, casually, as if he were just another colleague. Last night was magic, he wrote, dated after a late rehearsal she'd returned from glowing, her hair mussed, her smile too wide. Her reply, you make me feel like him on stage, seen for real, not just playing a part for Ethan. Attached was a photo, them at a jazz club, her hand resting on his arm, her smile unguarded, her eyes lit with a joy I hadn't seen in years, not since our early days, when we'd dance in the living room to Ella Fitzgerald, her laughter filling the space between us. My hands shook as I saved the email to a hidden folder on my drive, my vision blurring with hunched tears, the room tilting as if the floor had dropped away. Was this emotional? Physical? Both. The intimacy in her words, the way she gave him the parts of herself, I thought were mine, cut deeper than any explicit confession could, a blade slicing through the life I thought we had. I didn't stop there. Her phone, left charging on the counter one evening while she showered, yielded more. She'd changed the passcode, but I guessed it on the second try, her birth month with an extra digit, a lazy update that felt like a taunt, as if she didn't expect me to look. There were texts under Jules, a nickname she'd never mentioned, not even in passing. Last night was perfect, he wrote, dated after our solo retreat upstate, a weekend she'd claimed was for clearing her head. Her response, you get me, Jules. I'm not just going through the motions with you. Going through the motions. I'd been the one grading papers late, cooking dinner, keeping our life steady while she chased her dreams, thinking it was what love looked like. I screenshotted the thread, emailed it to myself, and deleted the evidence from her sent folder, my heart pounding but my hands steady, as if I had been preparing for this moment without knowing it. Over the next week, I became a shadow detective, piecing together a puzzle I didn't want to complete, each piece a fresh wound. Her calendar had vague entries: cast meeting, tech run that didn't match her stories, which grew vaguer each day, as if she couldn't be bothered to keep her life straight. I found a receipt in her jacket pocket for a wine bar, then never been to. Dated for a night shed, claimed a book club with her friend Mia. The new dresses, the lavender perfume, the jazz tunes, they weren't for me. They were for him, for a life she was building in secret, a life where I was an afterthought, a prop left backstage, while she took center stage with someone else. One Sunday, I found her notebook, hidden in a locked drawer in her desk, a small silver key tucked in a pencil case, a secret I wasn't supposed to know, but he'd seen her use it months ago, back when I thought she was just hiding audition notes. The notebook was spiral-bound, its pages filled with her tight, looping handwriting, confessions that read like a stranger's diary. Each word a betrayal I hadn't wanted to believe. Julian sees the real me, not just the wife Ethan needs. One entry read, dated after a rehearsal. Shed returned from glowing, her cheeks flushed, her eyes bright with a secret. Ethan's too safe, too predictable. I need passion, not routine. Safe. I'd been safe because I loved her, because I thought our quiet evenings cooking together, watching old movies, planning a future with a house by the sea were the foundation of something lasting, something real. Another entry, from a week later, jazz club with Jay last night. Felt like I was alive again, not just playing a part in Ethan's life. Each page was a knife, twisting deeper, detailing stolen moments, lunches disguised as script readings, a weekend retreat that was just them at a cabin upstate, wine by a fire, whispers in the dark, moments she described as freedom. I photographed every page, my hands trembling but methodical, each click of my phone a small act of preservation, a way to anchor myself against the tide of her words. I locked the notebook away, the weight of her confessions settling like dust on my heart, heavy and suffocating, making it hard to breathe. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed more, needed to be sure I wasn't imagining the betrayal, that I wasn't the paranoid husband she'd accused me of being if I came at her with questions. The thought of her dismissing me, laughing that bright, practiced laugh she used to charm her audiences, made my stomach churn, a sickening mix of fear and rage. I remembered our early days, how she'd curl into me on the couch, her head on my chest, laughing at my terrible history puns, calling me her Revolutionary War nerd, her fingers tracing patterns on my arm, as we talked about her dreams of starring in a play, my dreams of teaching kids to love history. We'd planned a life together, a house with a garden, maybe a kid someday, growing old surrounded by books and Juniper's descendants. Had that been real, or had I built it up in my head, a fantasy to cling to, while she drifted away, her spotlight turning to someone else? I started therapy in secret, meeting a counselor named Dr. Rachel Cohen in a small office downtown, its walls lined with abstract art and the single wilting succulent. "You're not invisible," Rachel said in our first session, her voice calm but piercing, her pen tapping softly against her notebook. "You're starting to see yourself, maybe for the first time in years." I unpacked years of feeling like the backdrop to Nora's stage, always supporting her auditions, her late nights, her dreams, while mine writing a history book, traveling to Civil War battlefields waited in the wings. I'd put off a master's degree to save for our apartment, skipped painting classes to be there for her rehearsals, thinking it was what partners did. What did she give back? Rachel asked, her question a mirror I wasn't ready to face. I didn't have an answer, not then, but it haunted me, echoing in the quiet moments when I stared at our wedding photo on the bookshelf, Nora's laugh frozen under a willow tree, a memory that now felt like a lie. One evening, Nora claimed a tech rehearsal at the community theatre, her voice light as she grabbed her bag and kissed my cheek, promising to be back by 10. I followed, parking across from the theatre, my car hidden behind a row of bikes, my heart pounding like I was a spy in a life that no longer felt mine. Through the lobby windows, I saw her with Julian, no crew, no props, just them laughing in the dim light of the stage, his hand brushing her hair, her smile soft and intimate, a look she hadn't given me in years. They weren't rehearsing, they were lost in each other, their ease screaming a connection I couldn't touch. I didn't storm in or take photos. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, my breath fogging the window, and felt the world tilt, as if the stage of our marriage had collapsed under me. This wasn't a fling, it was a parallel life, one shed built while I was busy keeping ours together, grading papers, feeding Juniper, believing we were still a team. I drove home, Juniper purring at my feet, her innocence a stark contrast to the fracture in my world. The betrayal wasn't just the possibility of sex, though the notebook's hints of nights by the fire made my stomach churn. It was the emotional theft, giving Julian the parts of her I thought were ours, her wit, her warmth, the way she'd tilt her head when listening, a gesture that used to make me feel seen, now offered to someone else like it never existed. The pain wasn't sharp like a cut, it was dull, a bruise spreading under my skin, making every moment heavier, every memory suspect. I started noticing more. The way she'd check her phone before bed, angling it away even when I was half asleep, the new lipstick she wore to rehearsals, a deep red to bold for her barista shifts, the way she'd stopped asking about my day, as if my world was irrelevant to hers. I went to our old book club, a monthly gathering at the local library, hoping to feel normal, to reclaim a piece of myself. The room smelled of coffee and old books, the group debating To Kill a Mockingbird, but my mind wandered to Nora, to the keychain, to Julian. Mia, her best friend and fellow theatre member, was there, sipping tea and talking about Scout's courage. Afterward, I pulled her aside, my voice low, hesitant. "Does Nora seem off to you lately?" I asked, fishing for a clue without revealing my hand. Mia frowned, her eyes narrowing. "She's been stressed about the play, maybe a bit distant." "Why?" Her hesitation, the way she avoided my gaze, told me she knew more than she was saying. "Just worried," I muttered, but the interaction stayed with me. Another piece of the puzzle, a confirmation that others saw the shift I was living through. I didn't scream or break things. I planned, methodically, over 10 days, each step a quiet rebellion against the life I was losing. I opened a new bank account, redirecting my paycheck to untangle our finances, a process that felt like unraveling a tapestry we'd woven together, thread by painful thread. I rented a storage unit in a nondescript lot outside town, moving boxes at night while Nora slept, her soft snores a cruel contrast to my unraveling heart. I scanned documents, our lease, tax records, even our marriage certificate. Its ink faded, but still binding, saving them to a secure drive, a digital archive of a life I was leaving behind. I packed slowly, clothes folded with care, history books I'd loved since college, Juniper's toys and scratching post, each item a small goodbye. The photo from our wedding, where Nora had laughed under a willow tree, her dress catching the breeze, went into storage, not because I couldn't bear it, but because I didn't want her to have it, to hold on to a piece of me she'd discarded. I wanted her to feel my absence, not my anger, to wake up to an apartment that no longer held my echo, a space as empty as it felt 4 months. The night I left, Nora was at another rehearsal, her voice bright as she called out a goodbye, promising to be back by 10. I worked quickly, stripping the apartment of me. No shoes by the door, no coat on the rack, no coffee mug in the sink, no trace of my daily routines. I unplugged my charger, packed my laptop, even took the dog-eared copy of the things they carried I'd been rereading, its pages marked with my notes. The walls, once lined with our photos, us hiking in the Smoky Mountains, laughing at a friend's barbecue, kissing under a festival lantern, were bare, only nail holes remaining, like scars of a life erased. I left one thing of voicemail on her phone, recorded in the quiet of 2 a.m. My voice steady but heavy. "Nora, I know about Julian, the keychain, the emails, your notebook. I'm done being your backdrop. I'm gone. Good luck." I took Juniper, her carrier jingling softly, locked the door, and drove to a motel an hour away, the town's lights fading in my rearview, the hum of the highway a lullaby to my fractured heart. I felt no triumph, only a hollow relief, like setting down a weighted carried too long, the road stretching dark and open before me. I parked 2 blocks from the apartment to watch, needing to see her reaction, to know if my absence registered in her carefully curated world. At 10:47 p.m., her car pulled into the lot, her silhouette in a shimmering dress from the theater's last show. The one she'd said was just for the stage. Julian's car idled briefly before speeding off, its taillights a red blur in the dark. She walked in, carefree, her heels clicking, then froze in the doorway, her posture stiffening as if she'd sensed the void before seeing it. I saw her call my name once, twice, 3 times, her voice rising, then breaking into the silence, a sound swallowed by the empty apartment. She flipped on lights, her bag hitting the floor with a thud as she noticed the empty walls, the missing coat, my side of the closet bare. She opened the fridge, found my labeled snacks gone, the yogurt I liked, the craft soda I'd saved, even Juniper's food bowl missing. Her hand went to her mouth, but she didn't cry, just stood there, staring, as if waiting for me to walk back in with a laugh, saying it was a prank, that I'd never leave her. I didn't. I drove back to the motel, its flickering neon sign buzzing like a heartbeat, and sat on the stiff bed, Juniper curled beside me, her purring a small anchor in the storm. I wondered if he'd made the right choice, or just burned my life to the ground, the question looping in my mind like a record stuck on a scratch. By morning, I expected her phone to light up, mine texts, calls, voicemails begging for answers, pleading for me to come back, promising to explain. Nothing. Just one text at midnight. Ethan, where are you? What's this? No panic, no tears, just mild confusion, as if I'd misplaced myself like a lost script, an inconvenience to her evening's performance. It crushed me, not because she didn't beg, but because she didn't seem shocked, as if she'd always known it'd fade eventually, that I was temporary, a placeholder until someone like Julian came along, someone who made her feel seen in ways I apparently couldn't. I didn't reply. I sat in the motel, sipping coffee that tasted like ash, staring at the peeling wallpaper, its faded stripes a mockery of the life I'd left behind. Had I been the fool all along, believing in a love she'd outgrown years ago? I thought of our first year together, how we'd dance in the living room to Ella Fitzgerald, her laughter filling the space as I spun her clumsily, her hair catching the light. I'd thought those moments were the foundation of something unbreakable, but maybe they were just echoes, memories I'd clung to, while she built a new stage without me. 3 days passed with no follow-up, not from Nora, not from her sister, Claire, who'd always sent me birthday texts with too many emojis, not even from her best friend, Mia, who'd invited me to trivia nights and called me the history buff. The silence was deafening, a confirmation she'd moved on long before I packed my bags, that I'd been a ghost in my own marriage long before I left. I spent those days in a fog, walking Juniper in her harness along the motel's cracked parking lot, her tail flicking as she chased shadows, her trust in me a small comfort. I called my old friend, Tom, who lived 2 towns over, his voice steady as he listened through my halting explanation, the words spilling out in a rush. "You're not crazy, Ethan," he said, his tone firm, like he was anchoring me from miles away. "She made her choice, and it wasn't you. You don't owe her your pain." He offered his couch, a place to crash, but I declined. I needed solitude, not pity, needed to face this alone before I could lean on anyone else. "You're stronger than you think," he added, and I wanted to believe him, but I felt like a battlefield after a war, scarred and silent, the fight already over. I kept seeing Rachel, my therapist, twice a week now, her office a safe haven, where I could unravel the tangle of my thoughts without judgment. "You're grieving," she said in our second session, her pen tapping softly, her eyes kind behind her glasses. "Not just her, but the version of you that believed in her, the version that thought love was enough." I nodded, tears stinging, and admitted the truth. I'd spent years trying to be enough, molding myself to her needs, staying up to help with her lines, skipping my own hobbies to be there for her shows, only to realize it'd been invisible to her long before Julian entered the picture. "What did you want from her that you didn't get?" Rachel asked, her question a mirror I wasn't ready to face. I sat there, staring at the wilting succulent, its leaves curling inward, and said, "I wanted her to see me, not as the guy who keeps things together, but as the man she chose." The words felt like a confession, a truth he'd buried under years of routine. Rachel leaned forward, her voice steady. "You can't make someone see you, Ethan, but you can choose to see yourself." On the 4th night, I drove back to our neighborhood, parking near the bookstore cafe we used to visit, where Nora would order a chai latte and tease me for my black coffee, calling it predictably boring. The cafe's windows glowed, warm and inviting, and through them, I saw her with Julian, her laugh bright and unburdened, the sunflower keychain dangling from her bag like a trophy, its enamel catching the light. They sat close, his hand grazing her arm, her eyes sparkling in a way they hadn't for me in years, not since we'd stayed up late planning a future that felt possible. I didn't feel anger, just a cold clarity. It'd been grieving a marriage she'd already celebrated leaving, a truth that settled like frost in my bones. I drove back to the motel, my hands steady on the wheel, and wrote in a journal I'd started, a cheap notebook from a gas station, its pages already curling. She didn't just betray me, she erased me, and I let her. No more. The words were a vow, not to her, but to myself, a promise to stop living in her shadow. The next day, I sent an email to Mia, attaching the notebook photos and the link to the voicemail. She can tell you her version, but this is mine. Ask her why she wrote him to safe. Mia called hours later, her voice sharp with disbelief, a tremor of anger beneath it. Nora's a mess, Ethan. She says you ghosted her without warning, just vanished. Why'd you do this? I replied, calm but firm, the words practiced in my head. Ask her about Julian. Ask why she wrote him just predictable. Ask why she didn't call more than once after I left. Mia paused, her breath catching, then hung up without a word, her silence louder than any argument. I didn't expect her to understand. Not fully. She'd always been Nora's friend first, but I needed someone to know, to see the truth I'd carried alone. Later that week, I met Tom at a diner. Its vinyl booth sticky, its coffee bitter but warm, over pancakes. I told him everything, the words spilling out like water from a broken dam. He listened, nodding, his face weathered but kind. You didn't just leave, man, he said, stirring his coffee. You chose yourself. That's not weakness, that's power. Most people stay, let the pain eat them alive. You walked. His words stuck, a lifeline in the fog, a reminder that my exit wasn't flight, but fight, a fight for my own worth. 2 weeks after I left, I ran into Nora's theatre colleague, Sarah, at a grocery store near the motel, her cart filled with frozen pizzas and a bottle of wine. Ethan, you're here, she said, her voice hesitant, her eyes searching mine. Sarah had always been friendly, bringing us cupcakes for opening night, but she worked closely with Nora, knew her world. Yeah, just grabbing some stuff, I lied, clutching a box of cereal I didn't need. She shifted, uncomfortable. Nora's been weird lately. Quiet. Something up. I paused, weighing my words. I could have deflected, kept my silence, but something snapped a need to stop protecting Nora's narrative. She's been weird because she's with Julian, I said, my voice low but steady. Ask her about the keychain she found at rehearsal. Sarah's eyes widened, her hand tightening on her cart. Julian, the lighting guy. I thought she trailed off, realization dawning. I'm sorry, Ethan, she whispered, but I shook my head. Don't be. Just don't let her spin it like I'm the one who left for no reason. I walked away, the cereal forgotten, feeling lighter, like he'd reclaimed a piece of the truth. A week later, I got an email from our old couple's therapist, Dr. Cohen, whom he'd sent the same file's notebook photos, the voicemail, a brief note explaining my absence. Ethan, I'm sorry, she wrote, her words measured, but heavy. You deserved better. Nora's been in touch, but she's deflecting, blaming stress, her career, anything but herself. Take care of yourself, and let me know if you need to talk. The email lifted a weight, not because I needed validation, but because it confirmed I wasn't crazy, wasn't overreacting to a keychain and a hunch. It'd been erased, but I was done letting her write my story. I started hiking, the motel's nearby trails a quiet refuge, their paths winding through pines, the air sharp with earth and freedom. I bought a cheap set of watercolors, painting the hills at dusk, each brushstroke a small reclaiming of my vision, a hobby I'd abandoned when I got too busy being Nora's support. I kept journaling, not about her, but about me, dreams I'd shelved, like writing a book on the Civil War places I wanted to see, like the battlefields of Gettysburg or the cliffs of Scotland, the man I wanted to become. One who didn't flinch at his own reflection, who didn't measure his worth by someone else's spotlight. 3 months later, I moved to a small mountain town, I'd found by accident, driving aimlessly until the weight on my chest loosened, the road leading me to a place where the air smelled of pine and possibility. I rented a weathered cabin nestled among towering pines, its wooden porch creaking underfoot, its windows rattling in the wind. No Wi-Fi, just juniper and the sound of wind whispering through the trees, a rhythm that felt like a heartbeat. The town was quiet, its streets lined with stone cottages and wildflowers, its people kind but distant, offering nods as I passed with Juniper in her harness. I started painting more, my canvases capturing the peak's quiet strength, the way light fractured on the streams, each piece a step toward a new me, my hands finding purpose in the colors. I hiked every morning, the crisp air clearing my lungs, my mind, the horizon stretching endless before me. I journaled at night, not about Nora, but about the man I was becoming, someone who could laugh without checking for approval, who could dream without fear of losing it. I thought of my mother, who'd raised me alone after my dad left, her quiet resilience a guide now. Shed once told me, "You don't need someone to make you whole, Ethan. You're enough." I hadn't believed her then, but I was starting to. Each sunrise a small confirmation. Nora sent one letter, left in the apartment mailbox I checked one last time before cutting ties. My final trip to town a quiet goodbye. No real apology, just, "I didn't mean to hurt you, Ethan. I miss us, but I needed more. I hope you find peace." I read it under a flickering street lamp, the paper trembling in my hands, then left it under the mailbox's rusting lid, its words fading like a breeze I no longer felt. I drove back to the mountains, the trees closing around me like a shield. Last month, I met Leela at a trailhead, a hiker with a kind smile and no hidden agendas, her laugh soft as we talked about the peaks and second chances. We're not dating, just sharing stories over coffee at a local diner, but it feels like possibility, a door I didn't know I could open. The keychain didn't break me, it was the spark that burned away a life it outgrown, a fire that left space for something real, something mine. Thanks for listening to my confession. If you've ever felt erased by someone you loved, share your story below. What historical figure's quiet, bold choice changed everything for them? Maybe a writer who walked away from fame, or a general who chose peace over power. Drop your thoughts in the comments. You're watching End Stories, where truth rebuilds what lies destroy.